Roll Tide, everybody, and welcome to Cover Crimson. Ty Simpson has a message for Alabama fans, the presumptive Bama starting QB this year. I don't think that he's not going to be the quarterback unless something goes down. Talking about quarterbacks, Thomas Castellanos still talking his smack, although it's a little softer than it was first time around. And Clint Lamb has done his top 30 players, and he's got Dijon Lee as a guy on the rise. We're going to talk about that. Bama football practice starts a week from today. All that here on Cover Crimson. We're brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Our friends are over in Philadelphia, Mississippi, hour and a half from Tuscaloosa, 2 and change from Birmingham. Timeout Sports Lounge right there in Golden Moon Casino, Vegas-style sportsbook. Where do you think Bama's going to end up? You willing to take them over the 9.5? You got them in the college football playoff. Can they cover against Florida State? Have that fun over there at Pearl River. And again, Vegas style without having to go all the way out to Vegas. All right, guys, we got a lot to get into. Let's go. All right, there's Clint Lamb. I'm Mick Gillespie. And again, great to see you guys here on the channel. Like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Comment in the comment section. All those things help us. And for those of you that don't watch on a daily basis but want to, the Cover Crimson Podcast Network is an option for you as well. Anywhere you get your podcasts that you can download the audio. All right, Clint, Ty Simpson starting to get that football vibe going, and he has spoke to the fans. What did he have to say? And does it have you fired up?
Yeah, it does have me fired up. He posted on Instagram, Alabama is starting fall camp 1 week from today. So getting ready to kind of ramp it up a little bit. And so we hopped on Instagram and he posted in a video, he said, when I get on the field, Alabama fans should know that I'm going to do everything it takes to win. I'm going to make sure that I'm the toughest guy on the field. I'm going to make sure that I win. I'm going to make sure that I know everything that's coming, and I'm going to get the guys around me the football. So I got fired up by the video. I am fired up by a lot of what he said. And granted, talking and doing are two separate things, but I fully believe him. I think that he is going to try to be the toughest player on the field, get that Jake Coker respect, if you can, within the locker room, where it's like, hey, you take a big hit, you're popping right back up. You're putting your body on the line for your teammates. But then also what he finished up with, I'm going to get the guys around me the football. That to me was, and that might seem like a simple thing to say, an expected thing to say. It wasn't a slight at Jalen Milroe by any means, but I think everybody can agree. Was he Alabama's best playmaker last year? I would probably say that was Ryan Williams, but Ryan Williams, his role is dictated based off of another player, which is the quarterback. The quarterback's got to throw him the football in order for him to make plays. Jalen Milroe pretty much at any point can call his own number. If it's a pass, he can decide to take off with it. If it's a design quarterback run, if it's any sort of read, he can choose to hang on to it. So, I think that is kind of the approach. Ty Simpson is going to be asked to make plays. He's not going to be asked to be a game manager. You've got to go out there and win some football games, but also understanding that you have a plethora of playmakers around you who can take some of that load off of you and they can go make plays. So give them the opportunity to do that. I love this comment or this statement to Bama fans from Ty Simpson. And I think he's going to live up to exactly what he's saying.
He's waited his turn. He has. He's been there waiting. He's been learning. We thought he should have played at the end of last season, and he didn't get that opportunity. But it didn't slow him down. He didn't transfer. He didn't complain. Wasn't one of these guys that was texting about how he's not getting playing time. He went and worked, right? And like Nick Saban used to tell those guys, you got to prepare every day like it's your opportunity. And from all we've heard is that Ty Simpson has prepared every day like when his opportunity comes, he's going to be ready. And it's not just a physical thing. It's a mental thing too. and it's a respect thing. And he's got all of those areas covered. The team knows it too. They know how lucky they are to have an experienced quarterback ready to take over the helm. Whether it's the running backs with Jam Miller and that crew, whether it's the offensive line with Caden Proctor, whether it's the wide receivers with Bernard and Williams, there's a lot of talent on the football field, but the quarterback's got to be your leader. And to me, it just feels like we have a graduate student leading the rest of the way as far as that quarterback position goes. And I think that Alabama's in great shape having him there.
What's wild, Jalen Milroe was the older player, the more established player when he competed with Ty Simpson for the starting job the first time around. But to me, where I thought it was probably, I wouldn't necessarily say it was meant as disrespect. I mean, I know it wasn't meant as disrespect, but the most disrespectful thing that Alabama did was not start Jalen Milroe over Ty Simpson. It is when they went to Tyler Buckner against USF instead of Ty Simpson. He had not been around for very long. I know he was familiar with Tommy Rees, but even through that, even when they said, okay, we're going to try someone else besides Jalen Milroe, but Ty, it's still not you. Now, a lot of that had to do cake in the oven. Was he ready? Was he not ready? When he came into that game, he did not perform outstanding, but he was A, way more effective than Tyler Buckner, and B, I actually think other than having a little bit of a slow internal clock, he wasn't seeing things quite quick enough. He was holding onto the football a little bit too long. He was making some plays. And as a guy gets more comfortable, that internal clock is going to start speeding up. So I don't think he did anything catastrophic. I think he made some plays in that game. It was just a matter of, okay, let's see this guy continue to get some action and get more comfortable being the starter, and who knows what that season would have turned into. And Jalen Milroe, I mean, I think he did a fine job. I know a lot of Alabama fans don't agree with that. I think he was a fine quarterback, but the biggest disrespect, in my opinion, to Ty Simpson was not turning to him and turning to Tyler Buckner, and yet he still took that in stride. He still stayed loyal to Alabama, and now he's earned the opportunity that he has to be that guy. And, we both think when the season opener I guess 5 weeks from today, right, when it rolls around, Ty Simpson is finally going to get his opportunity to get his first career start. And it's all a matter of what does he do with that. Like you said, he's going to have a good stable of playmakers around him. He should have an offensive line that's more than good enough. He should have a complimentary defense. It's going to be a hostile environment in Tallahassee. It's not going to be, Utah State or, MTSU or some of these other schools. Yeah, that would be a lot easier of an opener to get your feet wet as the starter. He's not going to get that opportunity, but I think he's, him sitting around and waiting and seeing a lot of these big moments. I think he's ready. And, I think he'll end up performing pretty well.
It is crazy to look at the schedule and see the slate of non-conference games that Alabama has. And when Nick Saban was part of the athletic department that scheduled games, he probably just assumed he'd be on the sideline for this. But I think it puts Kalen DeBoer in a really tough spot because these are marquee matchups. And I know that Florida State had a terrible season a year ago. 2 years ago, they won all their games except the bowl game against Georgia, but half their team transferred. Tallahassee is a hostile environment. They're going to be geared up to play Alabama. You got a quarterback with no experience. It's going to be tough. But you know what? At the end of the day, if Alabama is going to get to where Alabama wants to get, these are the type of games that they're going to have to win. And, winning on the road, emptying out stadiums. They did that last year against Wisconsin, although the Badgers quarterback got hurt in that game. I don't know that it would have made a difference, but it might have. It's still, when you look at what this Alabama team wants to accomplish, it's a great, really, a great challenge for them. But for a new quarterback to have to go into that hostile environment, on the road is tough. I think it comes down to this, and going back to our friend Shank, what he's always saying, got to run the ball. And I think so much of the success you have passing comes from running. And I know that Grubb and DeBoer are pass first guys, but you have to establish the run to be able to set up the pass. It just doesn't work the other way. in the SEC. And so I'm just curious to see how that running attack looks. And I thought Alabama's best games last year were the games that they ran the ball the best.
Well, a couple things there. A, you're 100% correct in the sense of what I don't think Alabama did a good enough job of is when they were presented certain things last year by opposing defenses, I don't think they took advantage of those things enough. When you get some loaded boxes or you get a safety who's overly aggressive and he's rolling down into the box quickly after the snap, you've got to be able to take advantage of that and make them pay for it. Alabama, if they could not hit a vertical shot, when Jalen Milroe was on and he was hitting those vertical shots, Alabama's offense was dangerous. He really faltered there over the course of last season, and really the second half of last season, he was not nearly as effective. And guess what? Alabama's offense, other than like the LSU game where he's able to run all over him and just do what he wants to, Alabama's offense was not as effective overall because they weren't making defenses pay for some of the things that they were doing. So, if they present some run looks, you've got to get movement off the football. You've got to play that numbers game. You've got to win those matchups and allow your running backs to get to the second level, make a move, make a play, and then you can start churning out some yardage. If they present, a run stopping look, you've got to be able to take advantage of it. And it can't just be, hey, let's take this low percentage vertical shot and hope that it hits. You've got to be able to take what they give you consistently, put it in a place where your playmaker can make plays after the catch, do all those things. We've talked about it a lot. So, yeah, that is absolutely something that I think is worth talking about. And when it comes to Ty Simpson, like when Jalen Milroe, his first ever start was against Texas A&M. That was not an easy first start. That was also in the middle of the season. So, you hadn't seen an entire offseason kind of built around him. Now, he was competing for the job all throughout that 2023 offseason. But by the time you saw it where he was kind of, at the very least, been battling in practice as the quarterback one, you really didn't know what to expect coming out of the MTSU game, which was the season opener that season. So, he looked phenomenal, and Alabama won big. I want to say it was like 56-7. Then they go on, they played Texas the next week, and then you saw the struggles that Jalen Milroe had as a quarterback. So I think the benefit of playing Florida State in week one is I think they're a good enough program. It's going to be a hostile enough environment where you're going to be able to come out of that season opener having a pretty good idea of what Ty Simpson is as a player. Doesn't mean that he can't get better. But, I do think that is beneficial just knowing, and then you can kind of start to, if he's got some kinks or there's some things that you got to work out, you'll be able to know that. And hopefully, Florida State is a team that is good enough to challenge you and present some problems, but not a good enough team to where it ends up getting you beat. Because if you can exit that game with a win and you can expose maybe some of the flaws or things that you thought would be there, maybe they're not there, you can go ahead and start making some of those adjustments. And then when you play those teams that are able to give you problems, real problems, you can already have some of that stuff figured out where because Texas in week 2, they were a really good program that year. They were going to make you pay for where you were weak or where they could exploit, like especially Steve Sarkisian with Alabama's defense, but really it's both sides of the football. So that's what I'm excited to see in this season opener. It's going to be a tough test, but I think it will reveal a lot.
Guys, we are presented by Residence Inn by Marriott Ocean City. Our friend Keith is big Bama guy. He runs the place. The next round was there. They did their show back to back coastal style hotel of the year. It is absolutely gorgeous. You're looking at it right now. Sunsets, great seafood, Secrets, which is like their Floribama. They got the boardwalk down there, crab cakes, just really, really beautiful place. And so when you guys hit vacation, take advantage of that. And when I tell you I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. I don't know when because of my schedule, but man, I can't wait to go and check it out and hang out with Keith and the gang. And you guys will want to do that as well. Florida State and Alabama, one of the big marquee games, week 1. Thomas Castellanos is the quarterback who transferred from Boston College and now is at Florida State. And he, you say like he tripled down. Like I said that. I mean, I don't mean any disrespect, but I said that. I mean, we said that. We stand by that. I mean, I stand by. Hold me back. I want to fight. Just hold me back because I don't want
to. Did you ever have those friends where, that they were trying to play big and they would go and stand behind the two biggest guys on their side and they would say,
oh, yeah.
And then they start running their mouths, but the second they had a clear path at you, then they, I always told people, I'm like, if I ever decide I want to get to you, there's not anybody that's standing in my way. I'm going to get to you. Like again, Castellanos, the way that he's handling this is very much like when Isaiah Horton was there. I mean, he was a lot more timid. What I will say though, Mick, I thought it was funny because he specifically said, and what we're talking about is at ACC Media Days, he's being interviewed. He was asked about that situation. He essentially said, I said what I said, and he said, we said what we said, and we're going to stand on it. But he's like, I didn't mean any disrespect to Alabama or its players when I said that. Now, here's the problem that I have with that. When you say, I don't see them stopping me, that could be confidence in yourself, and that's you being honest. And it's like, okay, I can kind of get behind. You don't mean disrespect. You're just talking yourself up. But when you make the comment about they don't have Nick Saban to save them, that's you 100% trying to be disrespectful. And I think it's funny how he specifically went out of his way to say, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful to Alabama or their players. When both Deontay Lawson and Tim Keenan said any disrespect would be addressed accordingly. So he went out of his way to use the exact same word. I didn't mean disrespect. I'm trying to still give my guys confidence, but I'm also sending you guys a subtle message. I really don't want the smoke. So just please accept the fact that I was not trying to disrespect you. Like, I just thought it was funny how he phrased the entire thing. He did triple down overall, but I don't think enough people are talking about how he's sending that subtle message of, but I meant no disrespect. So if you guys are handling disrespect accordingly, don't include me on that because I didn't mean it.
Yeah. Last year, I remember that the Auburn had the linebacker that was talking about, that they're going to beat Alabama, and when they were losing, it was funny, like watching him. He got
faster than Jalen Milroe. He said he was faster than Jalen Milroe, and then Jalen Milroe's the one that got the corner on him,
like into the end zone. Look, I'm a Ravens fan. You know that. No team ever talked more smack than the Ravens back in the day with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and all those guys.
Terrell Suggs.
And T. Sizzle and, always a bunch of Bama guys on the team. Jared Johnson, by the way, was one of my favorite Ravens from Alabama.
Haloti Nada.
Yeah, Haloti Nada.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Goose. But and that team in 2000 talked like, but they backed it up, right? That's kind of like, I think if you go in, just go all in. Yeah, they don't have Nick Saban anymore. This guy's not a great coach. Instead of, well, I'm not trying. Look, just go ahead and go all in.
You're not. You're saying we're standing on it, but then you're not standing on it. That's what I have a problem with.
Yeah. How different is Florida State going to be? I think they're going to be a lot different. I mean, look, having the Gus Bus as their offensive coordinator, there's a sense of urgency there. They've gone out and picked up a lot of players in the transfer portal. There's not going to be a bunch of continuity just because you haven't played that many games. But I just think they're going to be extremely improved from what they were a year ago. I just can't imagine them being having another 2-win year.
They're definitely not going to be a 2-win football team. I almost guaranteed that. How much improved, I don't know. I'm not saying they're an 8-4 or a 9-3 type of team. I mean, it could be 6-6, but when you go 2-10 the year before, getting bowl eligible is a feat. They could be 7-5. Like, I would probably say, based off of what I'm seeing, and some of it you ought to see it come together, and you could end up, I could go up or I could go down based off of that. But I think 7-5 feels like a pretty safe number for this team. What will help them early on is when you do have the quarterback's legs, and it's a lot of when things break down and, you've got some rust, your timing with the receivers isn't exactly great yet. You're still working out some of the chemistry issues. Maybe your offensive line's still trying to gel and things are breaking down around you. When you've got a dynamic runner in those early stages, that can really carry your offense where you can still be productive and score points as you fix some of those or get some of those issues corrected. So that's something that I do want to point out to people is, Castellanos' legs, I think, is going to be a I mean, everybody knows that it's going to be a critical factor, but I think even more so because Florida State still doesn't exactly what they know what they have at the wide receiver position yet. The offensive line, things still have to come together. They're still, I mean, just like a lot of these teams, including Alabama to a certain extent, everybody's trying to figure some things out early on. So that's something that Alabama needs to keep in mind when going against him. And then they'll certainly put his legs, at the forefront as far as, hey, if this guy beats us, we're going to make him throw the football. He's going to have to do it with his arm, and he's a pretty capable thrower. I wouldn't say he's an elite thrower, but he can do that. I mean, I'm not saying if you present him opportunities through the air, he can hit on some of those. He's capable of doing that, but that's how I would make him beat me, because one of the things about it is a lot of his success in these season openers and him bragging on himself and how dynamic he's been and great he's been in these season openers. A lot of his success has come on the ground. I would just definitely do what I could to make sure that he's got to beat you with his arm.
Yep. And that's going to be interesting to see too. Can Alabama run the football to throw the football? What's the protection going to look like with this offensive line? Are they going to be able to block? And then, obviously how they handle the road with a brand new quarterback. All of those things certainly matter. Also, how are you going to look when you're at the game? And we got you covered there with our Roback. Crimson 20 is our promo code. They've got all kind of Bama gear. They got polos and they got hoodies. They've also got golf gear, whether it's the office, whether it's Tallahassee for opening day, whether it's in class. Use our promo code Crimson 20 to get 20% off Roback. Comfortable, breathable, colorful, great gear at Roback. And it was awesome on the golf course. All right, Clint, one of the things that you do that a lot of people can't is evaluate talent and evaluate players. And a guy that you feel like is on the rise is the guy they call Mustard, Dijon Lee. You have him as a top 30 player already.
I do, yeah. And so I've been going through and I've been ranking Alabama's entire roster. The only guys I left off were the summer enrollees because they're true freshmen, and I haven't got a chance to see any of them yet. The guys the first time around, I didn't include JUCO players. I didn't include the early enrollees because I hadn't seen them yet. It was pre-spring. So it's those guys like Chuck McDonald, obviously Caleb Edwards. And then, I also didn't include the freshman punter because he wasn't available in the spring, evaluating a punter, not great at that anyways. So I just went ahead and didn't include him as well. But otherwise, it was 78 total players, so a lot of them. And I have my highest rated freshman is Dejan Lee at number 30. And that might seem a little high to a lot of people, which is why I wanted to talk about it. I have Richard Young behind him at 31. I have Cam Calhoun just behind him at 32. So I have both Dejan Lee and Cam Calhoun kind of right there in similar spots. And I guess in some ways you could have made the argument that Cam Calhoun should have been number 30 and Dijon being number 32, but I could see it going either way as far as who's cornerback 3 and who's cornerback 4. But Dejan Lee, just the length, the ball skills, the suddenness in which he started to play with, like he got some more, became more of a functional athlete, I think, a little bit throughout his senior season. The fact that he has just incredible size and length. I mean, when you're 6'4" and you're 202 pounds and you're a freshman corner, that is stupid. 32-inch arms. The length isn't elite relative to the height. So you would think, I want to say that, Eli Ricks was probably just under 33-inch arms, so longer arms, despite the fact that he was a couple inches shorter. You've seen some other Alabama defensive backs with much longer arms than 32 inches, but it's not like it's short arms, and he's still got that actual height. So overall, it's still really tough to get a football thrown over him. But he got a lot more physical throughout his high school career. Loved the way that this kid plays and the buzz that he generated. A lot of these guys, you go through, I have Daniel Hill sitting at number 34. That was a rise of 18 spots relative to the pre-spring rankings. Edric Hill there at 33. He rose 9 spots. Drake Kirkpatrick Jr. at number 42. He rose 10. Will Sanders rose 16 spots. He's sitting at number 45. Like Keon Keeley was a guy who I had going up 5 spots. He's at number 41. So like, and you can find all of these over at A to Z Sports. I was putting them on the Cover Crimson message board, and I still am. And I've got a nice little list, and I'm talking about how much guys have either risen or fallen, so you can get a nice little detailed summary of everything. But then I also got links to all of the articles where I expand on everybody. So definitely go check that out at covercrimson.com and then move on over to A to Z. But, when it comes to these roster rankings and stuff, I really do. Some of it's just instinct. But with Dijon Lee, I just think he's such a unicorn player that I wanted to kind of send the message that this is not only a true freshman who I think will contribute, this is a special, special talent. I love Keelan Russell. I think long-term he's going to be absolutely fantastic. Bunch of, Lazier Brooks, he's certainly up there. Where do I have him? I have him at number 38, so not too far down. I Keelan Russell at 37, Brooks at 38, and Lee at 30. So 3 true freshmen between that 30 and 40 range. But Lee, I have him quite a bit higher than the other guys just because I think he is a rare unicorn talent and definitely somebody that is worth keeping an eye on in 2025 if you're an Alabama fan.
One guy that has just about disappeared is a guy that I was really excited that didn't transfer out of Alabama, and that's Jaylen Embach. And he was in the secondary, and he started as a freshman. Not hearing anything about him at wide receiver. Not a word. It's like he doesn't exist. So he gave up the opportunity that he had as a starter on defense or, a guy that was coming off the bench, playing a lot, right? To now being someone that we're not hearing about. Has him moving to the offense affected the secondary at all? And then are you hearing anything about him maybe that I'm not hearing? I mean, is there a concern that he's going to be kind of absent this year from playing because of the switch?
I definitely think he's going to be a part of things. I've kind of said return man, and then a guy who you're kind of manufacturing some touches for on offense as he kind of learns the nuances of playing the position. Don't think he's going to see a whole lot of snaps, but I don't know how much he was expecting to. Surely he's never played receiver full time in his entire career. So surely he didn't think that he was going to spend a year on the defensive side developing and getting comfortable and doing all that, make the switch to receiver and immediately become one of Alabama's main guys. Surely he didn't think that. I don't think that he did, though. I think he understood it was going to take a little bit of time, but he is a massive playmaker with a football in his hands. And I have him ranked number 46. I had him dropping 3 spots relative to the pre-spring rankings. And the reason for that is, I already was kind of questioning where he was going to fit into the pecking order at wide receiver. And then even seeing a guy like Lazier Brooks being ahead of him or thinking that he's going to be ahead of him, it's like, okay, I bumped it down a little bit, but he's still in a very respectable spot. But here's the thing about it, man, is I don't know if they would have pursued Cam Calhoun if Jaylen Embach had planned to stay on the defensive side of the football. But it wasn't to the extent of Red Morgan at all. Red Morgan started off, I want to say through the first half of the season, he was averaging just over 25 snaps a game, which is extremely healthy. And then over the last half of the season, that number dipped to 3 or 4 snaps a game. So he was already trending, and now he's made a position move from Husky out on to the perimeter, where I think the lack of bulk will be beneficial for him because I think that was one of his issues. Also, he had some freshman struggles. But with Mbakwe, you saw his participation rate probably decrease a little bit too throughout the season. Maybe that upset him. I don't know, but I know that he wanted to play offense. I'm sure seeing his buddy Ryan Williams making plays on Saturdays with the football in his hands and everything, the more glamorous position, maybe there was something there that caused him to want to switch. I don't know what the full details are, but I know that them getting Cam Calhoun and Dijon Lee being a guy who's come in as another 5-star. You could talk about how talented Jaylen Embach is. Dijon Lee's every bit as talented, man, from a recruiting standpoint, from just Mbakwe's got the athleticism on him, but Mbakwe doesn't touch his size and just the combination of skills that he brings to the table. So it's I don't know how much everybody says, you're not playing at receiver after making the move. I don't know if they would have gotten Cam Calhoun, regardless of what he did, and they added Dijon Lee. I don't know for sure that Mbakwe would have been cornerback 3 or cornerback 4. So he could have been on down there, kind of buried on the depth chart at that spot as well. And everybody will say, well, then why'd you pay him? Why'd you keep him? First of all, it makes Ryan Williams happy. They're best friends. Secondly, he's one of the best athletes on your roster. It's like, we can figure some things out here. And I was surprised at how quickly he came in and immediately kind of assumed a role. I thought he would. I told people a lot when him and Zabian Brown both signed. I said Zabian Brown will be the guy who contributes first because I think he's more of a technician at this point. I think he's college ready from that standpoint. But you ask me in 2 or 3 years who's the better corner, I wouldn't be shocked at all if it was Jaylen Embach. So I was surprised at how quickly he came in and contributed, but he was still kind of a raw player, and that was going to happen with him having to focus in on one position regardless. So I just want people to understand, this is still like a premier athlete. He's still a 5-star talent. Just because he is not going to be a massive part of Alabama's plans in 2025 necessarily, like I don't know that for sure, but that's where it's trending in my opinion. That doesn't mean that he can't end up being a phenomenal player down the road. I understand Alabama is recruiting extremely well at the wide receiver position. They're recruiting extremely well in the defensive backfield, but don't write this guy off. I still think it's a little bit too premature for that.
All right. Hey, we're brought to you by Pearl River Resort, Philadelphia, Mississippi. Talked about the sports book earlier in the show. How about the golf course, Dancing Rabbit? It's the Augusta you can play. It really is 2 amazing 18-hole golf courses. The azaleas, the oaks. I mean, it's everything you want, right? The big clubhouse. You can actually sleep in the clubhouse. They have rooms you can rent. You get a golf cart with that. Ride over to Philip M. Steakhouse, get you a tomahawk, some of the chowder. Really is when you talk about all in one place, they got it all at Pearl River Resort. But golf, now's the time. We watch golf every Saturday and Sunday now. And you're like, man, I want to get out and play a new course. And then some of you have played it before and it's beautiful. So take advantage of it. Dancing Rabbit Golf Course. It is the Augusta you can play. All right, Clint, any mailbag questions that you want to get to before we pack it up today?
We'll grab just one quick one because I feel like we've given people a pretty healthy amount. But just one question that I got from Hayden on Twitter is, how important do you think it is for Ty that he has now had some continuity in terms of offensive coaching? He came in under Bill O'Brien as offensive coordinator, then Reese the next year, then DeBoer Sheridan the next. Will, for the first time in his career, him being in the same system for consecutive seasons be beneficial for him? Do you want to throw your thoughts out there real quick?
I mean, I think it always helps when you play the second year under a new system. Right. I mean, and you got to figure like the difference between where we were and where we are now is night and day. It's not, it's just different, different philosophy, different expectations, different styles. I mean, is that kind of how you feel too?
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you. I think you hit the nail on the head there, man. And it's unfortunate for Jalen Milroe because he never got that opportunity. And that's something that I do think held him back. Some of it was, some of his own limitations, but when you talk about this constant changing and, getting a new relationship with the play caller and getting comfortable with what they're going to ask of you, it just, and granted, Ryan Grubb coming in, he is going to be different, but this is Kalen DeBoer's system overall. It is going to look vastly different because the quarterback they have is just a vastly different talent. Like, you would be doing a disservice to Ty Simpson if you tried to operate the offense in the same way that you did with Jalen Milroe, and you would have been doing Jalen Milroe a disservice if you would have tried to have an offense that was designed around, Michael Penix for Jalen Milroe and his skill set. So it is going to look vastly different, but I think the terminology being the same, I think you already being familiar with the head coach. Nick Sheridan is still your quarterback's coach, so that relationship is still there. He's not gone. Ryan Grubb is very familiar with Nick Sheridan. He's familiar with Kalen DeBoer. So kind of their relationship is going to be pretty smooth coming in. I just think the entire dynamic of everything is really going to be beneficial for Ty Simpson, where, he'll get a luxury that, Jalen Milroe was never afforded, and that's just how it works out sometimes. But I do think Ty Simpson is certainly going to benefit from that.
Again, we appreciate you guys for being here. Find us, Cover Crimson Podcast Network, this show and every show that we do, including Elephant in the Room with Jake Coker, available on the podcast network. Make sure you set it to download automatically. That helps us. That helps you. Like, subscribe, get in the comment section, be a part of what we're doing as we cover Alabama and closing in on next Wednesday when practice starts, and we're closing in on that Florida State game. So it's football time, and that's pretty exciting. Thanks to Pearl River for putting us on, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Roll Tide.
To Pearl River Resort.